Good morning. Welcome back. It's now 2 minutes past 7 a.m. Welcome back to the program. My name is Victor Losar. Now, being the 10th day of November 2025, politics is still playing our key role, and you know how we do it. Every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, we talk about politics and current affairs. And today, let's talk about one thing that has been on the lips of the president for quite some time now. And the president for close to 2 months or so has been talking about Kenya's quest, ambition, aim, desire, and all that, and intention to move from a third world country to a first world country. So let's talk about that, the first world ambition. That's what you can see there, the first world ambition that the president is talking about. What are some of the fabric? What is the foundation? What do you really need to build for a country to move from a third world country to a first world country? And what is it exactly? What does it really mean that a country is a third world country, now moving it from a third world to a first world? The institutional infrastructure, the constitutional infrastructure, and so much more. How do we, what is the material that we need to use to build that country? And even you as a citizen, what role do you really play to move a country, more so Kenya, from the president's ambition, the third world country where we are today, to a first world one? All right, so my guests are already in studio. Let me start with Honorable Mark Ndingo. He is not new to Jerusalem. Actually, all of them are not new to Jerusalem. Mark Ndingo is a politician, a political analyst. He's been here with us for far too long. Mark, thank you for joining us. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Victor.
How is your Monday?
Monday is not bad. The weather is good.
Yes.
Yes.
So far, so good. And of course, I will have Daktari Daniel Kanchori. He is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. At the same time, he's also development strategic management expert, also joining us on set. Wakili, good morning.
Good morning, and Jambo Kenyans.
Jambo Kenya. You must be a happy man.
Oh yeah, I'm always a happy man.
I couldn't even locate you because all of you were donned in the real regalia. Were you there at the Amboseli at Kimana? I couldn't even locate you. You're all looking the same. That was so colorful. How does it feel in black and white?
Amboseli is back to their rightful owners. We thank the president for amecheza kama yeye.
Amecheza kama yeye.
Amecheza kama yeye.
Right.
And, returning what was taken away from us for 51 years. We're grateful that now it's home. The Maasais are the real conservatives who are going to look after the animals. And we want to promise Kenya and the world that we're going to take care of Amboseli for the benefit of future generations.
Yes.
Yeah.
What does this really mean? Actually, KBC were live there. We covered that function from beginning up to the end. Perhaps to my kinsmen in Homa Bay County who do not understand what it really means now that it's back after 51 years to the rightful owners, in black and white, what does that really mean? Can I now move there and invest freely? The revenue collection, what is all about?
One, the animals are now safe because, you know, Maasais and animals, we are friendly.
Yeah.
We know when to allow an elephant to drink water, when a lion is supposed to take water. So our animals are now safe. They are in the safe environment. Secondly, we expect that there will be what we call new generation tourism, because we are not only going to take care of the Amboseli, but also the ecosystem around there. There are going to be a vibrant ecosystem around the Amboseli. So the display of culture, more tourists, of course, when the game reserve is protected, new generational game reserve where we have a lot of ecosystem, more tourists, more revenue. So please, Kenyans and the world, come to Kajiado, come to Amboseli and experience a new generation national park.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that. Oscar Mondi is a political and governance expert. He's also a university don. He must be a happy man. After 60 days of Mandamano, now... Oscar, good morning. Good to see you, my brother.
Wherever they are, my happiness index is about 98%.
Yes.
You know, we also had an election with Suluhu winning 98%, and now happiness index of dons in this university, in this country.
The country was happy, so they had to give 98%.
Yes, the country was happy, have to give 98%, but one of the things is that there's persecution that are going on. And it will end up destabilizing. Unfortunately, the election in Tanzania might end up destabilizing the East African region because of the impact and the aftermath of that particular election that will take place in... and we are going to witness another election in Uganda also, which is part of the East Africa thing. And you know, Kenyans were released on the other side and others were released on the other side. Otherwise, to Kanchuri and Amboseli, I don't know what is the impact of Masai Mara, which was given to Narok County. I mean, how many years have been that, and what are the challenges that they're going through? Because now, for example, he's saying that there will be good tourism and what have you, but I've read somewhere in the press that the price or the tax on tourists visiting these sites have gone up. So I don't know what is the control between the national government and the county government who are now owning the park. Are you able to decide how much we charge in Amboseli as opposed to Masai?
Let me take up that question as they fix your microphone, Oscar. Sorry about that. I'll give you a minute to rephrase your question. But, Dr. You've correctly put it. I think it's on the front page of the Sun newspaper, based on what you've said, right? It's about multiple fees to hurt Kenya's tourism appeal. It took effect 1st of last month. And it doubled. I remember accessing Nairobi National Park, and that fee went to almost 1,050, from close to around 200, 300 shilling or something. It was triple. But the question is, how are you going to, I don't know whether it's going to only to affect Amboseli or all the national game parks and national reserves across the country, but perhaps we can talk about this headline as well as you talk about that.
You can see that it's already an appeal.
Yes.
The matter has been appealed, so it is before court, and we expect that it's going to be set aside. It's one of those bills that were passed in a hurry, and we don't expect that it's going to see the light of the day, because we want also to promote local tourism. You remember that when there, as my friend is talking about Tanzania, every time we have issues globally, our tourism is affected, because we've been focused more on tourists coming from outside Kenya. But what we are going now to do is to promote local tourism, because that Nyama Choma over the weekend, the children going to school, children going to our parks, having the people from Homa Bay visiting Kajiado, we want to promote that local tourism. For it to be hyped, I think is untimely, and something that must be set aside, so that we can allow tourists not only from Kenya but abroad to come and visit our parks.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay, that story actually continues on page 4 and 5. There are figures and facts about it, how industry players fear losing more affordable competing markets. That's on the front page of the Star newspaper. Still on the front page is, actually it was about the demonstrations about the KWS getaway fees affecting national parks in the country. And of course, still, there's a pilgrimage to Bondo where hordes of mourners continue to flock to Raila's final resting place. That is here. We've continued to see so many guests getting there. Museum discovers early tool making in Kenya that survived 300,000 years. Early humans living in the Turkana Basin maintained consistent tradition. This is something that is on the second page of the Star newspaper. Quite interesting read there. All right, continuing there, it's the story on the front page is tourism in trouble, high park fees, hidden charges threaten Kenya's appeal. And now it's about increased game park fees and charges in payment systems have thrown Kenya's tourism and travel industry into disarray. And the sector players are now fearing losing more affordable competing markets as per the Star newspaper. Very quickly, the story that I want us to talk about quickly here is, before I get into that, let's talk about the front page of the Standard. The Standard says Trinity of Terror. All right, Trinity of Terror. That's the front page of the Standard. The three presidents of East Africa countries, we have got Tanzanians, Mama Samia Suluhu. We have got in the middle Mzee Museveni and President William Ruto of Kenya. And the Standard is saying that when Uganda's Yoweri Museveni admitted that 2 Kenyans had been tortured while in his country's custody, he unwittingly fanned the flames of repression spreading across East Africa. Once seen as the region's elder statesman, Museveni now speaks as the world still reels from the bloodshed that accompanied Tanzania's October 29th election that handed President Suluhu's total victory and a new reputation for a strong arm rule. In Kenya, the soil has barely settled over the graves of slain youths, while others remain missing. East Africa is fast beginning to resemble the 1930s Europe of Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, and Ion Ontesoku. So that's what's here. It's okay. Let me just talk about that clearly. Mark, what do you make of that? I mean, we've been witnessing a lot in East Africa.
Yes.
With the latest one of the 2 Kenyans abducted for 38 days and released.
Sure. East Africa has been in the news for the wrong things. First, it started with the 2 Kenyans who were abducted in Tanzania, in Uganda, sometimes a month ago. And it took more than 30 days for them to be released after the Ugandan government denied that they were really arrested by the military, only for them to accept. I think it has been an issue of abductions both in the 3 East African countries. And it's for the 3 presidents of the East African countries to sit down and see how they are going to improve on this East African thing of cooperation and working together. Yeah, we can also not forget about the election of Suluhu Hassan that happened. It was an election between Suluhu and herself, which she managed to get 98%. I don't know who went with the 2% because she was competing against herself. And the implosion was expected because Tanzania has always been a peaceful country.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not because the leadership has been doing well. It has always been suppressing their people, not to come out and talk about the human rights which are being abused there.
Yeah.
So it was something which was expected, and we hope they are going to improve on what happened, because yesterday we saw Suluhu welcoming the opposition for a handshake. We hope it's going to be to solve some of the problems, if not all, so that we can see a peaceful Tanzania moving forward. Yeah, we expect to see a lot. Ugandan elections are coming up this next year, and Kenyans are coming up 2027. So I think we are going to expect a lot of demonstrations moving forward as we wait for those elections.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's come back home and talk about what's happening in the country. And as you can see, let's talk about the first world country ambition. And Dr. Terry, let me start with you. The president has been quite vocal about this, and he says that his administration has a clear long-term strategy to turn around this country and to make us move from third world country where we are to a first world country. First of all, I mean, what do you really make of that? The president's dream and desire for this nation to grow.
Victor, first and foremost, just to go back to the story of the abductees, you know, one of them is Bob Jagis from Kitengela. It's from my constituency. And apparently he happened to have been among the Kitengela 3 who were also abducted during the Gen Z movement.
Yeah.
So we are happy that he's back home, and we just wish that our three presidents will make East Africa safe for all of us, because the feeling out there is that now when you think of going to Uganda or Tanzania, you have to think twice, which should not be the issue. We are an East Africa community. So that's actually a very serious diplomatic issue that the presidents needs to sit down. Because, you know, we are married, like in Kajiado, we are married in Tanzania. We have relatives in Tanzania. So it's not just about foreign countries, but we are brothers and sisters. And this should be the case, so that you don't feel scared. Like yesterday, my kids wanted us to go to holiday in Tanzania over the December holiday, and we are thinking twice. We are scared. We don't know whether we'll be declared
persona non
grata or rioters there. So it's a very serious matter that needs to be looked into. To come to your question, I think the use of the terms first world, third world, they are outdated. It's unfortunate actually that we are discussing those matters, because, you know, those terms were used during the Cold War. And it was first world was the countries that aligned with the US then. The second world, those that are aligned with the Soviet Union. And the third world were nations that were non-aligned. So we no longer have a Cold War. We no longer have those categories of nations. So even to be discussing whether we are third world or second world, that is outdated and is actually offensive, to say the least. Secondly, Kenya is not a third world country. It's not a third world country. Maybe we can categorize Kenya as a developing country, maybe a middle income country, but the use of those terms from our history, the leaders actually should go back to history and apologize even for categorizing Kenya in those, and even entertaining such a debate, because it's outdated and offensive. Yes.
Oscar?
Yes. Dr. Kachori says it the way I would say it in class, because I teach political science, and now we don't have even countries, neither do we have even states. Now we call them economies. So we have the Chinese economy, the Kenyan economy, the American economy, and all the economies. And now these are the economies, like the Kenyan economy, are called the emerging markets. Yeah, the emerging markets of the Koreans and all this, and the developing countries. So those categorizations means a lot in political debates. When you call them, even people who are fighting against president, lost that time during the third world things, we used to call rebels gorillas. You know, not allowed to call them gorillas anymore. You call them rebels or in a nation, because they're fighting for something. Anyway, about these abductions, and I told you about this African region integration, and now Kancholia is not able to go for December holidays because of this silly, reckless leadership that we have today. And I heard one time the late Prime Minister's daughter, who is EAC, East African Community Legislator, saying that they've not been paid for almost 4 or 5 months in the East African Parliament. That means that Parliament is also there. That means the counties are not contributing. The other thing was, remember when Raila Odinga was running for AUC, East Africa could not speak as East Africa. There was really a problem. And by that time, we also had a war in Congo around Goma area, and SADC was more influential to bring that people to talk together than East African community.
And even SADC had an influence in the election.
In the election, yes, of in Congo, and also in Tanzania. So the SADC becomes a stronger integration bloc than East African community. And now you see whatever is happening. These are small things that, I mean, if you arrest people, you've not just got the list of people who've returned from Tanzania back to Kenya, who are first arrested and detained, arrested and detained in Tanzania. And the reason of being detained is one, that you are Kenyans.
Recent arrest
and oh, sorry. Sorry about this one. And now, what happens is, this one will affect our integration. In terms of business, whatever is talking about, if you go to these borders, if you go to the border between Turkana and Uganda, the people who live in Kenyan side are called Turkana, and the people who live in Uganda side are called Karamoja. And now, if these people are brothers the same way, so the borders should not be, the authorities that are living in those borders should not be able to stop them from operating as a people. You should not have just to erect borders, because actually, when you talk about borders, where do the real borders are? Are we only talking about physical borders? Because I can erect a border on you now by declaring you a person on Grata, even if you're in Nairobi, even if you're in the middle of Dar es Salaam doing business. Somebody can erect a border against you there and then. So we should be very, very careful so that we don't really interfere with East African integration, and we work as the people of East Africans. For example, if you go to Gikomba market, almost a quarter of people who work there are people from Tanzania. The people who sell sugar canes in our streets are Tanzanians. And if you go to Rwandese who are here, Kenya has been very good home for foreigners. If you look at Nigerians who are in Kenya, the Asians who are in Kenya, the Tanzanians who are in Kenya, they have their peaceful thing. The music that you listen to in Nairobi is Congolese music most of the time. Number one music in Nairobi is Congolese. And bongo music from Tanzania. So we import music. We import music from our neighboring countries. We import music from Congo. We import music from Tanzania, which is bongo music. And it has been like that for all along. So I think the leadership that we have today should be able to really think. Number three, the youth bulge in Africa. The youth are really want change. In Tanzania, in Kenya, in Uganda, the story is the same. The story is the same. Just change how you do things now. The story is the same. The demonstrations were in Kenya, the Gen Z demonstrations, the demonstrations and whatever happens with Bobby Wine in Uganda, the demonstrations we have in Tanzania. Nobody imported like Suluhu who wants to convince Tanzanians that actually the people who are demonstrating here are Kenyans, they are border riders from Kenya. No, this is rubbish. I think what you do about some of these things, let us deal with the youth bulge. And dealing with the youth bulge, make radical decisions. Radical decisions is, for example, what the UDA or the ruling coalition has not managed to do, which they must do for us not to experience a lot of violence in the elections. Deal with cost of living crisis. I was in the village over the weekend. The cost of living crisis is a nightmare. And those empowerment process, I say, Bwana President, do me a favor, reduce the cost of fuel. That's it. That's radical. Just reduce the cost of petrol. That's it. We will be able to deal with all these things that we're dealing with. You will be able to reduce the cost of living. So long as 1,000 shillings cannot buy, then we are into a rude shock. Even as whatever happened in Tanzania, we are playing with something that will go out. And what the Gen Z said, that here Tanzania ilikuwa ni kionjo. Then they want to influence Uganda. And you see, the problem is governing the global space. We had industrial revolution, we had agrarian revolution, you know about this history. We had information technology revolution. And information is power. And even if you look at the Arab Springs, who were coordinating the Arab Spring that pushed all the leaders around the Arab Springs in that part of the world? It was not done from Tripoli. It was not done from Libya. It was not done from Tunisia. It was not done from Cairo. People who are sitting in the UK, who are diaspora of these countries, were doing all these things on Facebook. But they were coordinating things down there. So you cannot be able to be physical, because Suluhu now has almost 2,500 people on treason charge. How can that be? That you have 2,000 people on treason charge, physical. The people who are controlling this thing are not people even living physically in Tanzania. And that is why the last time I told you, even IBC, I told you IBC will not register any voter here. They're not registering. Why? Because you're targeting the Gen Zs who don't accept physical documents. They want a portal to register. Let us be citizens and look at these things in a practical way. So even in Kenya, unless we know people who are controlling the revolutions in Kenya, who are not people who are living in Kenya. Some of people who were Kenyans in X-spaces living in the US, some of them were living in Europe, some of them lived in China, but they were controlling whatever was happening in this country. And Suluhu Hassan cannot know that. I don't know if Museveni is old, but William Ruto should be able to think about it.
Wow. Okay. Did you answer my question when it comes to third world country to first world?
I told you there's nothing like third world. He had already answered.
Nothing like that.
No difference of third world. Who is third world? Who is third world? If you come to Nairobi, there's no big difference between Nairobi and the streets of Brussels. Like, we have a good airport here, and we have learned people in Nairobi.
I want us to take a quick break, but before then, Oscar, what did you eat in the village over the weekend? you tell us that. You tell us that. Let's come back to you, Mark. I mean, he talked about economies, not worlds, not countries anymore. But this ambition, when over time you've been given this example of the Asian tigers, talk of Singapore, talk of Korea. But these countries did not wake up in the morning and say that we are going to make it from where we are today to where they are now, that country or those countries. Perhaps it took them blood and sweat.
Sure. Yeah, Victor, being ambitious for a country is not bad. But you also need to look at the people now driving the ambition. The other day we were given the 2030 vision, 2030, which is yet to be achieved. And here now we are talking about first world. We are not going to achieve first world with the current state of affairs because first, for a country to be in a first world, you must tackle the issues of governance in a way that you show you that you are interested to take your people somewhere. But if you look at a situation like Kenya, where we are still struggling to implement our constitution, which was passed in 2010. It's a big challenge because one, we cannot achieve that first world stage when we are still struggling with the devolution. Since 2010, the constitution had given the county governments 15% of what's the revenue from the national government. But after even 10 years, 15 years, the county governments are receiving the same amount, which now brings the question, how are we going to achieve that first world when we are not even supporting devolution? Look at corruption. Corruption has always been an issue. And a country cannot even develop without tackling corruption. If you compare Kenya with countries like Malaysia and Singapore, any time a state officer is caught with corruption, it does not take more than 2 or 1 year. That person is charged and jailed. But if you look at our country, Kenya, we only talk about corruption. We have the bodies which fight corruption, but nothing has been achieved. So there is a lot. We need to tackle corruption. We need to tackle our governance system. We need also to tackle what the lecturer here has told us, employment of the youth. Because you cannot develop a country whereby you only have some few people who are employed. There is no even an age limit of when one is supposed to retire. Sometimes back, the retirement age was raised to 60, away from 55. That means we are going to have so many people working who don't even have the charisma and the knowledge to drive the economy forward. So I think there is a lot which needs to be tackled for us to talk about first world first.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I want to serve Oscar tea. At least this will cool him down. Oscar, you okay with that?
Yeah, but you see, we don't have to have tea. We have very short time to execute this, or unless you want to go commercial.
Let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
We'll be back. Stay with us. And welcome back. Oscar is on air. Okay, let's come back. Dr. I mean, it's an ambition, and this one requires individual planning and for nation systematic changes, institutional changes for us to move together as a nation. You said we use the word economy now?
Yeah, economy.
But for the sake of this one,
For the sake of...
from the way President says, third world country. Okay. So this one requires a lot of work. He's talked about the Asian tigers. You are just accused of corruption. By midday, you are normal. That's how strict they are. For us, we have got bodies fighting corruption in this country, and he said that, you know, they still struggle with even autonomy to do their work.
Let me sip a cup of tea. Victor, it's actually...
Okay, gentlemen, welcome to Cup of Coffee. Kanjori, you've done it. Karibuni.
Asante, thank you for the cup of tea. You know, I've had the privilege to be in both Singapore and Malaysia.
Yeah.
In my former capacity as a member of the County Assembly for Kajiado, and also as a businessman, just to enjoy and learn from their technology. And when you hear His Excellency the President talking about Singapore, I think it's a good talk in the right direction. But that needs more than just talking. It needs more than just a political statement in a baraza. Because when you visit those nations, one, they have working systems. It doesn't matter who is the president, who is the next president.
Yeah.
They have deliberately put systems so that, one, there are little resources. You hear a country like Singapore, they have limited land. They actually have to reclaim, they are reclaiming the sea to be able to get more land. That's how straining they are. They have limited land. Secondly, they are actually now, the water they are using, they are recycling the sea water and all the wastewater. That's what they are using. They are not having any wastewater. Here in our country, we have just had rains in Kajiado. The last 2-3 days, we could not cross rivers. But now all the water is gone. Now we are talking about where to get water. And when you read the news about education system, issues to do with the education system, the ministry has now declared, and Professor is here, that come January, there will be an increase in all boarding schools. It means if you are a child from a poor family, now studying in a boarding school, even the local boarding school, is a pipe dream. It's actually unimaginable that now our local children cannot afford to go to a local boarding school because of the fees that have been set there. So our academic system must be put into a standard to ensure that we have innovation, access to education. Our infrastructure system, look, we are struggling to build roads here in Nairobi. And Nairobi is just a county. Rather than connecting roads to link all the other parts of the country, so that our farmers are able to bring their agricultural products to the markets. You have one side of the country with excess produce. Yeah. Another part of the country is suffering from hunger. So it must be a deliberate system. And with the kind of parliament we have, which have been captured, they are just talking about they have to be paid to pass important bills. I think it calls for a whole paradigm shift for us even to come to that table of discussion. But just putting it as a political statement, it is offensive, as I say. It is in a kera, in a sumbua zaidi.
That is a question, because it looks more...
With the people walking around with money, dishing out, as he's saying, in the name of empowerment. Is that the kind of empowerment that we want to do for a first world country, where politicians, where Kenyans are paying taxes, but well, these taxes are being wasted in an attempt of empowerment? We have seen this Nyota program. They are saying you have to be of a certain age, you should not have gone to a diploma or a university. Is that the kind of national youth opportunity that you are giving to our people? So we have to rethink the whole system of our policies and laws. Yes.
When you look at, Oscar, I mean, there should be national level development, first of all. It has to start from the top. And then it percolates down to common mwananchi to understand what it really means to move from a third world country to a first world country. There has to be some national concern and a deliberate concern about it. But you're only hearing from the president alone.
Yes, one thing from what, again, Dr. Ali talks about, that as a Minister of Education who wakes up in the morning and says from January there will be fee increase, who tells him? Where does he get that information from? Is it scientific? Are there we are in November, and somebody tells you that January we will have school fee increase. From where? So first world countries or whatever, the developed economies don't work like that. Not just an individual who wakes up from sleep and because he's a Minister for Education and says, oh, Kwanzaa Monday, school fees. Who? Where? How did you prepare these people? Who came up with those policies? Was there a research that was done that we need to justify this one? And a system where 2 months students have not been in university, first world country or first world economy, rubbish. What happens in those economies is, for example, education that we give. I got education from those countries myself. But to them, education is not for that individual. They don't educate the individual. The education is meant for the business community. The education is meant for the nation. So it is upon the nation to give education to the people for the development of the entire nation. So education must be free. You see, so long as you still think that when you educate Oscar, you are educating Oscar to help Oscar. Oscar's bills are very small. But when I teach at the university and teach 300 students, do you think the money that they give is given to me? No. We are training lawyers, we are training business administrators, we are training agriculturalists to help the nation, not to help these individuals. So companies, big companies like Safaricom should also come in as stakeholders because they're going to benefit from it. When we have a good educated community, everybody benefits. But so long as we have policies where education fees is going up, then we're coming down as a nation. I thought now with this administration, we should have had policies like we had with the Moi Kibaki of free primary education. That was an indicator of the first world now. Education and health, two things. Education and health. And you know where we went wrong as a world? When we started selling water and toilet. Yes, when you have to go to a toilet to answer a natural call, then you have to pay. When the taps that we have here, in those first world countries, just go to Johannesburg, ile maji natoka kwa mfereji is drinkable. You can drink, you can go to a tap and get water and drink.
Actually, what you just need is an empty bottle. You just need to walk with an empty bottle. You can access water anywhere.
In this country, the taps that we have here, if you go to the restaurants here, when you ask them for water, they tell you, ile iko ni ya kanjo. And it's not drinkable. When we can't get drinking water, talking about first world countries. When we can't get education for our kids, talking about first world country. When we can't get health working. The devolved health that was taken to the counties is collapsed. In my county, Siaya, we've not had health workers work for the last 2 months. People are dying. So what do? We develop mortuaries and we sell coffins in a first world country. So the thing is that it is everybody speaking for themselves. And what are we talking about? What is the policy that Dr. Conchari, do you know the policy we have today? Everybody's talking about 2 term, 1 term, 2 term, 1 term, 2 term, 1 term. What is that? It's useless. How can we be talking about 2 term and 1 term for a whole year? Instead of talking about what policies do we have to make sure people go to school, to make sure health is working, to make sure agriculture is working, and whatever has kept this government in power is only one thing. Let me tell you, the rains. The rains have been, God has been so good to us for the last 3 years that the rains are enough and people have food. If we had a drought during this regime that we had here, you could have seen war come from Turkana, people fighting for pasture and water. But it's been lovely that we've had rains, and we have rains and rains and rains, so that the cattle in Kajiado and what have you don't have to come to Nairobi. They always here most of the time when it is too dry there. So whatever policy that we should, you see, like for example, if you go to a country like Sweden, the timetable of university runs for 20 years timetable. Predictability. 20 years. We know that on this particular day, 4th of June, there will be thesis defense in that room. In 2027, it will be there at 9 to 10, unless something like COVID happens. Something so radical happens. But here, students who are going back to university now, because the strike was called off yesterday, don't have a timetable still. And now for the administration to work so that Oscar and the rest can get to work, it takes another 2 weeks. These guys have been out of class for 2 months. Whatever has happened, do you know, in one of the classes, I tell you, in the University of Nairobi, 2 students I know who committed suicide during that particular time. Do you know that the empowerment program that we had over the weekend, I think 2 babies died because when people were told that there's money, there was a stampede. But there are women who are carrying babies so people are stampeding and stepping on the babies. This is where we are. It's a very sad situation of what we are doing. And the people who are bearing policies that we are supposed to deal with, like for example, the empowerment money, why don't you use it to reduce the cost of fuel? You know, you can use it as a priority.
Okay. Mark, let's talk about the issue of industrial and innovation culture. I mean, for a country, for us to move, the industries in this country must be opened up. And that has to come from some quarter. Kenya, we're a productive country, so much so. When you go to Kamkunji down here, when you go to Juakali down here, the kind of handiwork that is being done there is enough to spur us from where the president has that ambition from a third world to a world class. But is that happening?
I think, Victor, we are a long way to go. If you look at our Juakali sector, which is a sector, if the Juakali sector is empowered very well, it can even spur development in our country. But what is happening now is we tend to know what is supposed to be done, but we do which is not supposed to be done. Because if you look at the leadership we have at the moment, we have people who have gone through training. They are experts in their own training. But if you look, for example, what I'm talking about the Juakali sector, if you look at the person who is given that docket to man it, you find is a different person who is supposed to give a direction to that sector. A good example of what is happening now. You know, the ministries of our government, which are about 22, you'll find a person who is supposed to be given the Ministry of Health, who is supposed to be a medical doctor, is a profession in that field, is not the person who is given that ministry.
Yeah.
You find the government giving the ministry to a politician. And the Prof here has said it well. If you give a politician a job to run, he's not going to look at how he's going to improve that that sector. He's going to look at how he's going to amass wealth, get back to the next elections, and be elected. So that's where we are getting it wrong. A country like Dubai, if you look at Dubai, how it has managed to be a developed country, it's not because they have different people. It's because they have given their leadership to visionary leaders who look at how in 10 years' time where their country is.
There is a blueprint.
Yeah, but we have a long way to go. Look at our education system. We have the very good experts. We have very good advisors on where we are supposed to go as in the education sector. But whenever it comes to implementing or whatever is supposed to be done, you find there is nothing. There is totally nothing. Look at what is happening to our youth. Instead of finding innovative ways of empowering them, we are giving them money, handouts, in the pretense of saying we are empowering the youth. But these handouts are not even going to last for years. They only last for one day. I found one in my place when they came, and it was being announced as an empowerment. But when you asked the border guys what they got, it was only 200 shillings. Somebody traveling away far from a place of 10 kilometers, but when he comes, he's given 200 shillings. And that, they say, is empowerment. So we are totally getting everything wrong. And for us to achieve the fast forward, we need to, first thing first, we need to follow our constitution. We got a very nice constitution in 2010, but we don't want to implement it. We want to do other things, and we pretend that we are driving a country. I think it's a total mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wakili, when you also comment on that, let's talk about the strong governance system based on what he's also talked about, the Constitution of 2010. I mean, when you have got a strong governance system, everything is deliberate and everything is predictable. He's also talked about 20 years in which country?
In Sweden.
In Sweden. But are we deliberate? Even the Vision 2030, we are almost clocking 2030, but are we halfway?
We will check and turn to 2000 or 2050.
Victor,
Okay.
if you walk in the streets of capital city, just look at the shops, the malls, you will see that almost 98% of the products that are there are imported. Second-hand mitumba, you'll find a whole street. Actually, this Nairobi has been turned into a hawking capital city. And we are hawking things that are imported. So 98%, we are competing with the election in Tanzania in terms of importation of what is being sold in this capital city.
Yeah.
This is just a capital city.
Yeah.
So that tells you that our balance of trade is wanting. We are importing more than what we are exporting. That will affect the country's income. That will affect the economy of our country. Secondly, we have also turned politics into the currency of the nation. Politics is literally everything. The statement by the Minister for Education, how the government handled the lecturers' strike 49 days, was all about politics. There are no systems to run our country. It has been turned into politics. It is a currency. How two politicians will wake up, whether you remember, and may God rest Raila's soul in eternal peace, how we will wake up and say there will be no job tomorrow, or how they are going to behave, how the government, the opposition and those in government, how they are going to smile at each other will determine whether our children will go to school or will go to work. So my challenge is, look at our planning system. When you go to Singapore, you cannot wake up and paint your house. You cannot wake up and change the direction of your door. Because as he said, there is already a plan that has been approved for almost more than 50 years. So it is predictable. They know that this place is going to have houses, and with this plan, there will be water in this and this. But look at our plan. We have grabbed public land. Our planning system is not working. We have very nice plans in the shelves. We have so many theses of our students who have studied and earned degrees. They are attracting dust there. Mutu wako na degree, but that is it. You just have a degree, but there is no innovation that you've brought.
Okay.
See?
What is the DNA? What is so different in the DNA of those countries that Kenya does not have? I know DNAs are so different, but
if I try to interject,
can we transplant DNA?
No. Actually, most of the people even going to work in those countries are our students.
Yes.
They are taking our people.
Labor exploitation.
It's just about a poor system. We don't have system in this country. Look at how we collect our revenue. Money is supposed to go to the consolidated fund. We have a budget, but you see a government running programs that have not been budgeted, and they are consuming billions and billions of shillings. That already tells you that there is no system.
Yeah.
But again, for example, the budget is talking about, for example, the empowerment program, this is not budgeted for. but we're implementing it, for example. Again, if you want to do a road in Kenya, what do? You demolish houses, story houses. You demolish houses, then you do a road. That means that what was happening here, you see, we have this Kenya National Roads Highway, this
Kenha.
Yes, the Kenha thing. The plaque is somewhere inside an estate, and you're told this is a road reserve, and people are living there and it is built. You get me right? That's the poor planning I'm talking about. Because again, at the end of the day, if you demolish houses, we are just doing away with capital because there are people who invested here. How did people end up investing in a road reserve, for example? But again, I think the engineering of our politics is problematic. In a country like, and again, from what I was talking about, the question that we need to ask, if at 63, when we were getting our independence, our GDP was as equal as Korea and Singapore and Malaysia. So where did the rain start beating us when those guys, we now want to go and benchmark there again?
Were we deliberate at 1963? That's the question.
I think we were deliberate, but we started creating small gods in politicians. And we went the political way. There's a country like Botswana, which has done well in terms of its management, because of not so much, because of stability. They had Iron Kama, then the other Kama, and then it was the change in politics has always been very good. As opposed to ours, where somebody comes who is completely different from the other guy. If you go towards CDF funds, for example, an MP starts doing a school and then he's voted out. Then the new MP does the road, doesn't do this one now. So it's wasted capital. There's no continuity of governance. When the Jubilee government works, they have their policies. But when the UDA one comes, then they have a bottom-up approach. So this bottom-up approach, what about all the projects, all the ideas, all the 2030 vision that we had in place that was supposed to be done? Do we stop them? Yes, we stop them and start this one. So we are always caught. And I always say that the problem with these developing countries is like a relationship between a father and a son. The father moves very fast and they're moving together, but the son loses steps because the father is moving so fast. When we had, like, for example, the mobile phones, you see these guys are doing the mobile phones. Here we were still on those ones. Then we are told that although you put so much money on that project, that is outdated program. So you need to use a mobile phone. So all the time we are putting money into outdated things, and before we finish doing them, before we lay a cable, then we told, no, we can't do cables anymore. It is wireless now. But you know, we've spent so much money in our budget to do cables. Secondly, the thing of budgets. Kanchori, we don't have budgets anywhere here. Whatever a budget is, unless you go train the county assemblies and the governors and the president, what a budget is. A budget is, ukiandika hii, then you go put money on it, then you implement it. That's a budget. But what they do is completely different. So they just do the budget for just the sake of doing it. But they're not interested in doing the budget. Like, for example, the counties, they will work better if there's disaster. They want to spend on disaster. So we're not managing by crisis, that we are waiting for a crisis. If a crisis happens, then we can spend money there. While we are spending money on that crisis, then we steal some.
I think the challenge is corruption. It is corruption. Because as you say, in these other developed countries, they have actually made a deliberate step that it is nation first. And you know, even our constitution is very clear.
The resources you don't even think about corruption.
Yeah, the resources we have is for the present and future generations. And
actually, I don't think it is corruption for me. I think people just don't know what they're doing.
Let me just interject a little, because when you have a budget, as you say, there is a budget there. It is an itemized budget or whatever. But when you go against that budget, that's corruption actually. And you find again our corruption agencies, my brother was saying here, they are just cosmetic. In those countries, you can't even imagine like China. You know, people, they see this Chinese come here, shao. When you go to China there, then you realize that even if Chinese stop for the next 200 years, we will not catch up with them. They are very serious.
That is so serious.
Yeah, it's very serious. If you are, whether you are a president and you are convicted of corruption, you are gone, and the country proceeds.
What I'm saying, it's just a point. But why I'm saying sometimes I don't even blame it on corruption. People don't just do simple bookkeeping. For example, when I see these governors or these members taken to court because of corruption, they sit there like they don't know what they did. Most of them, they don't know what they're doing. Because when you go, for example, to Mombasa with MCAs,
yeah,
there is people slept in a hotel and their receipts and what have you. When the Auditor General come to check this thing and raise audit queries, these guys didn't just pick receipts from where they slept and brought them back to accounting department, or they bought tires for vehicles and they just record somewhere. For example, in Kiambu, I don't know if that was corruption. When the governor, Ferdinand Waititu, decided to send some money to the wife's account, I don't know, what is that? Is it corruption, or is it just people who are just, is it really, they don't know what they're doing most of the time. They're just completely not aware of these processes and how administrative works things, because when they are caught in corruptions, you realize that they didn't even know what they did.
Yeah.
Because, for example, NYS scandal, you remember, when this lady was walking, the hair doer for Waiguru by that time, because she just sent a lot of government money to her hairdresser.
Okay.
You know, these are not really corruption.
Is there hope?
Hope? No, with these guys who are in, because you see one thing, now, for you to get a position, you just don't need to merit. So long as we'll get to merit, it'll be okay. But so long as we have to, after every political time, then you reward the people who shouted Ruto 2 term. Because these guys were shouting 2 term.
Yes.
All these guys were shouting 1 term. When those 1 term and 2 term, any administrator will get into power, we'll just reward these guys who are shouting.
Okay. Dr. Is there hope?
Absolutely. We have hope if we go back and ensure that we have a working system.
Yeah.
Let's think of country first. You remember during Kibaki, build Kenya?
Buy Kenya.
Buy Kenya.
Yes.
So that we encourage the local. I saw one guy, I don't know if he was from Turkana, trying to build an aeroplane. Those are the people that needs to be encouraged. And I also want to challenge our dons, our universities, our institutions, so that we don't just produce degree holders, but we need innovators who can come and solve these problems that we have. The tax problem. Remember the president said we don't have enough power. Well, we have a jua inatusumbua huku Kajiado. How can we make use of that sun so that we can power our industries and all that? So we have hope. If we organize ourselves, we think country first, and Kenya is here for us and our future generation.
Very good. We have hope?
Yeah, there's hope.
Okay.
Because we have 5 years. After every there's a cycle of elections in every 5 years. And the more we continue electing people, I'm sure one time we'll get the right people to run our country.
Okay.
There's hope.
Very good.
If I may add something.
Tumemaliza.
Just one. Mheshimiwa, what happens is that what we are doing, we have given you 1 million Gen Zs, and they're trying. You're now dealing with educated folks, and you can see how educated folks are trying to change things. We're giving you more and more and more.
I know,
so by
I know how sweet it gets.
you have a lot of educated folks to help.
I know how sweet it gets when it's almost over. I know. Thank you so much, gentlemen. The 3 wise men, I call them the 3 wise men. That is Dr. Daniel Kanchori. Asante sana. Kajiado depends on you.
Senator of Kajiado.
Senator, I said that intentionally. Kajiado depends on you. He's an advocate of the High Court and, of course, strategic management expert. Thank you so much, sir, for coming. Oscar Omondi, the gentleman who went to the village and came back completely radicalized. You tell us what you ate there. Oscar Omondi is a university lecturer, political and governance expert. And, of course, Mark Ndingo is also a politician and also a political analyst. Gentlemen, asante sana for coming. There is hope for this country. We can move it from third world economy, as Oscar said, to a first world economy. There is hope. My name is Victor. Good morning.